I'm going to lead, I think, and then hand over to Emma. But thank you to the BBS UK for asking us to speak today. We're both delighted to be speaking about how to stay well and about managing anxiety and low mood with the end of lockdown. And to be able to reach such a wide audience and getting a message out to all our patients. So it's a fantastic opportunity, and thank you. So yeah, I'm Anne-Marie Walker. I'll be leading the talk today and handing over to Emma midway, and we'll finish up. Some of you will know me as the psychologist from the Birmingham clinic, and Emma is the psychologist in both the children's and the adult clinic in London. So next slide, please, Emma. So what we're going to be covering today is what you might be feeling about the lockdown ending, just to raise awareness really, because lots of us are having very different feelings about it. What you might be feeling in terms of low mood in particular, and hopelessness, tiredness, and how to recognise them. I'm going to be mentioning something called the capacity cup and stress, which is stress tolerance. And Emma will be talking about what you might be feeling in terms of anxiety and how to recognise it. And finishing up with what can you do? So some strategies for managing the lockdown easing, particularly with regards to anxiety and low mood. Next slide, please, Emma. So it can be very daunting thinking about and difficult for us for lots of reasons. Is that the next slide? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. In full lockdown, things might have felt more certain because things were quite predictable, the rules are very clear, and as things continue to ease, it's posing a bit of a challenge for some of us, not less predictable. Things are less clear, and there may be new challenges to face. So it can be stressful when things are changing. Next slide, please. And I've put up here a picture from somebody, another Emma, another clinical psychologist, but Emma Hepburn, who's posted quite a lot over the pandemic on Instagram and captured really well the sense of what it's been like, and put up some very helpful coping strategies around managing stress using cartoons and graphics. And this is a graphic of a cup, a blue cup with green bubbles brimming over, and on it it's saying the capacity cup of coronavirus overwhelm, with burnout, overwhelm, exhaustion, irritability, anxiety. And she posted it just as we were easing out. And on the cup there's some writing as well, which captures really well lots of the different feelings that some of us were having when we heard we were easing out. Things like adapting to massive changes, never-ending exhaustion, huge uncertainty, pressure to socialize, not wanting to go back to normal, lots of different ideas there, but basically describing that sense of being quite overwhelmed. And so some of you might be feeling lots of different things at the time. Hopeful, some of you might be hopeful about meeting up with people, excited about that and making plans, but some of you might be feeling daunted, and some of you might be struggling to see how things might improve or return to how they used to be. Change and uncertainty can be very tiring, and we've had a long time with that now, and exhaustion is part of it. Some of you might be feeling bored and lacking motivation, knowing how to ease out of the lockdown. What shall you do now? Reluctancy to start things that were cancelled in the first lockdown, or making us nervous about making any plans going forward. Some of you might be feeling lonely and isolated, struggling with the media presentations that everyone is mixing again and hugging again. And if you had COVID, you may still be experiencing the stress associated with that. Some of you might be grieving for people who have died, or from other losses, such as a loss of a job opportunity or a sense of community. So it's different for everyone, and to feel motivated in these times is both difficult and important, but difficult. And things are not going to be the same as we ease out. The expectation of a good time is quite different. The world looks different, and taking small steps, recognizing that it's hard, setting small goals, but planning in advance is important. Next slide, please. So in summary, I think she captured really well that sense of all the different things you might be feeling, good and bad and difficult. Many people are excited, so many people are anxious. Many people are feeling a little bit of everything, with different expectations and energy levels. And I wanted to say all that because it's okay to feel all these different things. It's very normal. How you feel is how you feel, and it's okay to not be okay as well. Mixed feelings are entirely normal. Next slide, please. And she posted this as well. She's written a book as well. I'm not picking her up, but she's won an award for all her work over the pandemic from Boris Johnson. But how you feel is how you feel is on this slide, and don't shame yourself or others. Can't quite see the end of it. Don't shame yourself or others, but she's got speech bubbles on either side. Things that people might be saying, like pull yourself together, or you shouldn't feel this way, or what have you got to feel bad about? So common things that people might be saying. And I guess I wanted to put this up to bring home the message in coping, that it's important that you recognize how you feel is how you feel, and whatever that is, that's okay. Other people can't tell you how to feel, or that you should pull yourself together, or come on, get up, get out. We need to recognize how we're feeling and take our time and small steps. Next slide, please. Some of you may be struggling in particular with how low you're feeling, and mood does go up and down. It's very normal for it to. But common causes of low mood are stress and continuous stress over time, and goodness knows we've had that over the last year or more. And sadness is a healthy emotional response to pain or loss, and signals the need for care and compassion. So we wanted to raise that here. And of course, as a rule, you should always seek help from your GP if you're feeling overwhelmed with your feelings, or they're stopping you from getting on with your life, or having a big impact on those you live with, affecting your mood over several weeks, or causing you even to have thoughts that life may not be worth living. It's really important you do seek help from your GP, who is available for immediate advice. A lot of it still is virtual, but things are open and opening and continue to open. And each week there are messages, aren't there, coming out about how the GPs have been told to start to see people again in certain areas around England and the UK. So in terms of coping with strong feelings, I'm going to just mention the capacity cup now. And going back to our overwhelm cup. Next slide, please, Emma. Thank you. But going back to the coronavirus overwhelming cup with the green brimming of feelings, imagine a cup. Next slide, please. Sorry. And the space inside the cup. It has limited capacity, and if it gets too full, it will overflow. I've just put up another slide of a cup with green, orange and red lines in it. And on the bottom, it says plenty of capacity. And in the middle bit, it says still some space. And in the top bit of the cup, it says very little capacity left. And then the bubbles on the top of the cup say things like stress and overwhelm. They're the overwhelming, brimming parts of the cup. So imagine this cup, and the space inside the cup has limited capacity. And if it gets too full, it will overflow. And everything you do fills your cup. So it represents your emotional capacity. And we all have limited emotional capacity. Everything you do fills it up. Medical tests, COVID, going out, pressure to socialise, lower fitness levels, putting on weight, all these things take up space in your cup. And recognising how full your capacity cup is at any one time can help you manage your stress. As you get nearer the top, you have less emotional capacity to cope left. And that means that even the tiniest little thing can can set it off, can cause it to brim over. Things like not enough milk in the shops, or running out of toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic. The smallest thing that you would normally manage with ease, it's likely you didn't have the capacity to manage that thing. But balance is the key at this time, especially, and scooping out strategies for managing this capacity for stress. It is lots of different things around scooping out, making room to cope, noticing when you're reaching the top so that you start to take things out, shaking it up and throwing some things out. And how you do that might be thinking about talking to people you trust, asking for help, thinking each day is a new day and I'm going to start fresh today, making plans, looking out for yourself, and finding things to do to reduce your stress levels, things that you enjoy, setting aside one thing a day that you really enjoy, taking good care of yourself, self-care, figuring out what to fill your timetable with carefully, and watching out for exhaustion is important, particularly in like what we've said about exhaustion already. All these things will help you to manage easing out of the lockdown. And it's worth saying that we're not used to socialising, but we can't forget our social skills. It is exhausting at the moment. It's okay to feel that, but don't avoid socialising completely, but be mindful of what you can tolerate. And we'll say a little bit more at the end as well as about with regards to more specific strategies to easing out of lockdown and looking after your mental health and well-being. But I'm going to hand over to Emma now, who's going to talk more specifically about the anxiety part of it that might be filling up your cup. Over to you, Emma. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to talk a little bit about anxiety, but I think it's helpful to think about why we have anxiety. We experience anxiety from the moment that we're born. It's a really important experience that we have, anxiety, because it really has helped us to survive. I put a picture up here which has a kind of caveman coming across a saber-toothed tiger, and he's looking quite fearful of the tiger, because he should be worried about it. If he's not worried about it, if he just carries on his wandering around, he will be taken by the saber-toothed tiger. So, you know, really thinking about why, in an evolutionary perspective, have we continued to experience anxiety, and it's because it is a helpful and useful emotion.
Emma, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're very, very quiet. Are you able to?
Is that any better?
A little bit, if you're able to turn it up as well. Sorry.
I will try. Thank you for letting me know. Is that any better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I was talking about why we experience anxiety, that it's a very useful emotion. It's an emotion that we wouldn't have survived if we didn't have. And this is an example here of a saber-toothed tiger coming across a caveman who, and the caveman is experiencing the anxiety, which is causing him to react, which is really very important. So I'm just trying to change there we go. So a little bit about anxiety. As I said, it's important. It's helped us to survive. We experience it from the moment we're born until the day that we die. It's there for a reason. It's also very useful. It helps us to focus on problems that we need to fix. So if you think about, you know, times in your life, maybe when you've had a deadline, there's been something that you've had to do, feeling a bit of anxiety can help you to really focus your mind and be quite productive about whatever it is that you have to do. It can help us kind of problem solve and think about the worst case scenarios that might come along and what we might do in those types of situations. It's great when there is a problem that we need to fix. Unfortunately, sometimes we feel anxiety when there isn't a problem to be fixed, and we can get into a bit of a cycle of worry and anxiety when it's not necessarily directed towards something in particular, or there isn't something that's a real threat to us, and then that anxiety can become more problematic, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So as a species, we're not very good at tolerating uncertainty. Our brains really like the predictability, and as Anne-Marie was saying, there's been a lot of uncertainty around. There continues to be uncertainty around, and we do tend to be more anxious in those uncertain situations. And so that unpredictability, as Anne-Marie was saying, can fill up our capacity cup. But at the same time, it's okay to be anxious. We know why we experience it. We know that it's an important feeling. Whilst it's awful to feel at the time, everybody does feel it at some time. So how do you know if you're feeling anxious? When we do become anxious, our bodies activate the fight, flight, or freeze mode. So these are mechanisms that have helped us and our bodies to adapt to threats. So we either fight against what the threat is, we flight or run away from it, or we freeze in the face of anxiety or threat, thinking about a bunny in the headlights who just freezes and stays still. And the way that we experience anxiety, we can think of it as having different kind of components to it. So one aspect are the physical feelings that we experience. So our bodies produce these chemicals that get us ready for this fight, flight, or freeze response. Our hearts beat faster. They get the body, the blood ready to get to the muscles to be able to react. Our breathing can get faster so that we can get more oxygen to our muscles. Blood's diverted away from parts of the body that aren't being used. So, for example, your stomach, and it can make you feel as though you've got those butterflies in your stomach or an uncomfortable feeling in your stomach. Your body shuts down functions that aren't needed to face the immediate threat, and so sometimes you might not feel like eating. You might have a dry mouth. You might find it difficult to swallow. The results of the blood pumping around faster, it can make us feel more sweaty. It can make our faces feel flushed. So these are all physical feelings that can arise when we are feeling anxious, and they're perfectly harmless. They're our body's getting ready to face that threat. The other aspects of anxiety that I'm going to talk about are the thoughts that you might experience when you're feeling anxious. So you might have thoughts that it doesn't feel safe to go out. Why was it safe yesterday and now it's why was it not safe yesterday and now it's safe today? Is it really safe to go out? You might be experiencing thoughts about your health. Maybe you've been less active. Maybe you've gained weight. You might have thoughts that I'll never get back to where I was before the pandemic. So that can be a really worrying and anxious thought for people. Another thought around socialising, my friends will have forgotten me. My friends haven't been in touch. They don't want to see me anymore. So these are all thoughts that we're experiencing that might be triggered by the anxiety. And what's really important to remember is that these are not facts. These are your thoughts, and these are worry thoughts. So it's important to just notice them and acknowledge those thoughts when they do arise. And finally, I'm going to just think about how anxiety can make us behave differently. It can make you want to avoid things that you're worrying about. I've got a picture here of a turtle who's retreated inside its shell, quivering, looking very worried. It makes us want to kind of withdraw and remain in a safe place. It might also make us feel a bit irritable, a bit angry, a bit wound up by people who are maybe encouraging us to do things. You might feel a bit snappy with them. You might try to do everything at once and think, I can go out, I can do everything, and so completely overwhelm yourself by packing your schedule, trying to do everything at once, which can end up feeling overwhelming. And one thing that's really common that we experience when we're anxious is what we call the avoidance cycle. So there might be something that triggers you to feel anxious. So that might be an invitation to go out, or hearing a group is starting to meet up again. And your body goes into this alarm state, this anxiety state that I mentioned. So we might be feeling physical experiences, we might be having those worrying thoughts, and our reaction might be, oh, well, I can't really face that. I'm going to avoid it. I'm not going to go along. And as soon as we make that decision, we feel that relief, because the anxiety's gone, because the trigger has gone. We've decided I'm not going to go out. So that brings that short-term relief. But the important part about it is that it can lead to long-term consequences, that if you don't go out and you don't start to socialising can feel even more overwhelming. And so the next time we get the invitation out, we don't have that drive to go and accept the invitation. So it can become a bit of a cycle of not acting, and therefore missing out on different experiences and different opportunities that you might have. So now we are going to think about what we can do about low mood and anxiety, and I think Anne-Marie is going to start.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. So on top of all these ideas that we've mentioned about dealing with anxiety and low mood, we thought we would finish off with some key strategies that we know work well with looking after your mental health and well-being. And there's sort of 5 main ideas, as well as the breaking the avoidance cycle with anxiety, that we've put in here. And they come from research that the government asked to the London New Economics Foundation back in 2008. What are the key things that we need to feel good and look after our mental health and well-being? And of course, our mental health is as important as our physical health. And they came up with 5 key areas here that we'll just quickly talk you through them. And of course, there's more information available on other sites. But yeah, the first one is noticing and accepting your feelings, which we've talked a bit about today, and taking your time. So the idea here is that stopping to take notice and paying attention to the present moment directly impacts on your mental well-being and health. And we've spoken about the importance of what you're feeling and noticing and being aware of how you're feeling, which is very important. Reconnection was the second thing that they found was vital. Feeling close to and valued by others is a basic human need, and one that's essential to function healthily in society. So we need to connect to feel less alone, which is why this pandemic has been so difficult. And reconnection is important, but as Emma says, how we do this, we do need to plan this, take it slowly, and be aware of things like avoidance. So the BBS UK Facebook group and are available as well for online, safe, virtual ways of keeping in touch with people. And getting in touch with the BBS girls, Amy and Angela, about how to connect is available as well. You might need to ask for some help to join you up with facing into it. Some PAs might be able to help with safety and going out again, particularly if you've been shielding for a long time. It's all feeling very strange for everyone, but anyone who is shielding might be finding that particularly difficult. We're aware of that. And RNIB have a phone line. There's specialist organisations like Look, RNIB. There's an online presence that's very good from Mind and from Together All as well. So look to your immediate circles of support for reconnecting, as well as the wider circles. Over to you, Emma.
Yeah, so I mentioned this anxiety cycle whereby we avoid different things, and so really to address that, we're thinking about really planning to do what it is that you're avoiding. So those things that you know that you're afraid of, or that make you feel a bit worried about, planning to do those things. And it doesn't mean that you have to do everything all at once, but you can think about very small steps that can take you along the way. And it might be helpful to write down a list of things that feel difficult but okay to do, and then you might have a goal of something that's much bigger that you're working towards, but you're taking it in very small steps, as though you're going up a ladder, one step at a time. Sometimes it can be helpful to ask somebody to join you to help you facing it. Like Anne-Marie was saying, really, there are people out there who can help you with this, friends, family, and also some of the people from the BBS groups. You can think together about how to manage some of these things that you're feeling afraid of. And really the key is planning your day or your week, building in a clear structure and a routine, and including things that you are going to find a bit tricky, and then also things that you will enjoy and will bring you some relief and calm. Thinking about those physical experiences you get with anxiety that can feel very unpleasant. Things that can help with that include keeping active, doing regular exercise, whether that's going out for a walk on your own, going out for a walk with a dog, with somebody else, exercising at home, even if it's just starts for 5 or 10 minutes a day, putting that into your schedule and getting started. In fact, you could start today. You could do it whilst you're watching this conference, or plan to do something afterwards. The other thing that can help with those physical feelings are calming exercises. So focusing on your breathing. Some people find guided meditations can be helpful. If you look on your phones, the NHS has a lot of apps that you can download that can help to guide you with some calming and soothing exercises. So you can take a look at those.
Thanks, Emma. And then the final two of the 5 key ways in which you look after your mental health and well-being are giving, because just giving can help you feel good. So helping out and supporting others can make you feel needed and valued and boost your self-esteem. And they can be small or big acts of kindness. Seeing your happiness linked to the wider community is incredibly rewarding. So and they can include things at the moment, like there's 148 people on this webinar, but just reaching out through people, through a text, just dropping a line saying I'm thinking of you, or how are you, emailing it, gradually thinking about linking up with other people who are probably also struggling as well, can be mutually beneficial. So how can you calm yourself enough to feel at ease to talk to other people? And finally, learning new skills was the 5th thing that was found to be beneficial in terms of bringing about good mental health and well-being. And lots of people have been taking up, some people haven't, but lots of people have been taking up new skills and hobbies and trying different things out over the past year or so, including getting out into nature, or learning what's more available local parks down the road that people never knew existed, taking up baking, cooking, exercising online. It's never too late to learn a new skill, and all these things can be beneficial. So they're the 5 key areas to think about. So that's hopefully a whistle-stop tour of all the different ways in which you might think about how to help yourself ease into the next stage of the lockdown opening up. And I hope it's been helpful, but thank you. I think we can take questions at the end of our sessions today, can't we? So